while power is still out in many provinces a week since Odette made landfall, data from frontline responders show electricity has yet to be restored in over 100 towns and cities. Let's now speak with Cynthia Alabanza of the National Grid Corporation. Cynthia, thank you for joining us. We saw the magnitude and scope of Odette's devastation from Surigao in eastern Mindanao, crossing over to the Visayas and then to Palawan. From the reports you've been getting, how much of these areas lost power? And as we speak, what is the status of restoration efforts?
Well, at the height of the typhoon, we saw around 95 different transmission lines all over Visayas and Mindanao affected and that went on that were unoperational. These were spread out over Iloilo, Antique, Negros Oriental, Negros Occidental, of course, Cebu, the island of Cebu, the island of Samar, the island of Leyte, Bohol, the Caraga region, that's Antique, or Agusan del Norte, Agusan del Sur, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, parts of Lanao del Norte, and Misamis Oriental. As of date, we have restored almost 83% of the damaged transmission lines. So out of the 95 that were damaged, 82%, we've restored 78%. But that's just in terms of number of lines. There were 12 towers that were toppled and 616 transmission poles that were damaged. So far, we have energized, in terms of transmission services, we have normalized transmission services to Iloilo, Antique, Misamis Oriental, Lanao del Norte, and the northern part of Cebu, as well as Samar. Although parts of Samar still cannot access power through the grid because of the damage to the lines in Leyte.
We know restoring power in these devastated communities will be a daunting task. We've seen this happen before, say, during Yolanda. But what challenges are you, as well as local power firms, are facing to bring back electricity? I hear linemen from electric cooperatives in other areas not affected by the typhoon have been called in to help.
That's the thing that you see in the midst of such tragedy and devastation. It's almost second nature to Filipinos to go on the bayanihan spirit. So you're absolutely right. We do have line personnel from Luzon and other unscathed parts of Mindanao who are coming to Visayas to help out with the restoration. And during our coordination meetings with the Department of Energy, the National Electrification Authority always report on their efforts. We also have cooperatives from Luzon and the other places that were unaffected, sending their own teams of line personnel to help the cooperatives in the Visayas area. So it is a daunting task, but the Filipino spirit and resiliency is very strong as well. And I think we can match that.
Electricity is very crucial to power up other utility services like water pumping stations and even the telcos. Are you providing some sort of alternative sources of power to these utility firms so they too can resume operations?
Well, right now, without the transmission grid online, that is not something that we cannot do. There is resort to some, particularly NGCP or substations. Some of our substations do run on generators because even we ourselves cannot draw power from the power plants because they are not yet connected or they may have some issues. However, something that aggravates the situation is that there is still a shortage in fuel in the Visayas area. Right. In particular, we were receiving reports that our facilities in Bohol, the most affected of all the provinces, no longer has fuel to run their generators to power the substations there. One of our helicopters, which is very critical in ferrying our personnel and equipment, and they also help in installing the emergency restoration systems and the bypass lines, cannot be maximized because there's really a shortage of fuel on the ground. Right. So that is one of the things that are hampering our efforts to immediately restore transmission services in the Visayas as affected by Odette.
Just quickly, Cynthia, what is your timeline to completely restore power? Will it be likely that some or maybe many areas will still won't have power by Christmas, which is just 2 days from now, and New Year.
Well, for NGCP, we're talking about just transmission. We have to hand it over to the distribution utilities because we're only one link in the energy supply chain. So our targets are mostly by the end of the year to restore transmission facilities to the distribution utility. Whether or not the consumers and at the household or commercial level will have access to electricity really depends if the distribution utilities will also be ready by the time we restore transmission services.
Cynthia Alabanza of the National Grid Corporation, thank you. We appreciate you joining us tonight.